Hello, and welcome to the Gunderesen Health System podcast. This is the week of December 21st, and also the very first peer coaching podcast.
I'm Sue MacLellan, and I'm joined by Erin Maslowski, and we are excited to have the next 15 minutes with you.
I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. This is Erin. I'm in physical medicine and rehabilitation. I'm in my 10th year at Gunderesen, and Sue and I make up 2 of 5 clinician coaches, and we're part of an internal coaching program that started about a year and a half ago.
And I'm Sue MacLellan. I am a pediatric cardiologist in my 18th year here at Gunderesen, and just excited to be here. This is such a cool opportunity that was offered to us to just share a little bit about our program and maybe some mindfulness ideas for you. So we're just going to dive right in. Hey, Erin, sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, why don't you share a little bit about what coaching is? Just set the stage.
Well, to me, coaching is really about an exploration of self. And when you do that, then you're more able to thrive, recognize yourself as a whole. We as coaches always say that we think all human beings are creative and naturally resourceful and whole. So as coaches, we just come alongside you and try to help you realize your fullest potential.
Thanks for sharing that. That mindset really strikes me as different from what we learn in medical school, which was really more of a mindset of viewing everyone as broken, diseased, and dying until they proved otherwise. And we then might have come into medical school wanting to be healers, and we were taught how to be fixers. And so I actually go around in life trying to fix a lot of things rather than just being, just resting in the moment. And so for me, this whole coaching encounter has been so wonderful to just begin to re-experience what it is to be a human being instead of a human doing.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's something that a lot of the people that I coach find to be a pretty profound shift when they realize that you can be a healer without necessarily being so focused on fixing. And you can just take it as human nature that we're all pretty resourceful and okay to begin with.
Yeah. It kind of like eases the pressure in the moment, I think. It makes me feel like I don't have to be so responsible for making everything right. It just lets me kind of coast through things. I'm thinking even to some times when I've gone to meetings with my agenda and just releasing the my part of it and being in the moment. It's just fun to watch the flow of how everybody interacts. It's just kind of easier.
Definitely, and so many people struggle with imposter syndrome. When they hear that term imposter syndrome, they really relate to it. And I think that if we let go of our need to fix everything, then we won't necessarily feel like we're constantly a little bit not good enough.
Good point, yes.
Yeah.
So we can't succeed 100% of the time is what I hear you saying, and we're not perfect, we know that already, yet we put that pressure on ourselves to perform perfectly because we're trying to fix everything.
Right, that's what I think.
Brilliant,
That's what I think.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's take a little shift, Erin, and share a couple more tips on how to thrive as a clinician in this tough healthcare environment and in the middle of a pandemic.
Wait a second, we're in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah. Truth be told, that just totally came out of my mouth. Maybe before I even thought about what I was saying. You know, I mean, sometimes you just say things. I have no idea when this mess will end. It's crazy out there, and it's so hard to maneuver through this holiday season. And just to be clear, I do not have a crystal ball. So I say middle of the pandemic, intra-COVID, but maybe we're nearing the end. Vaccine is exciting, so good news there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to know exactly what to say to each other in this moment, and a lot of us, our patients and our family members, are looking to us to have all the answers and to have it all come out of us in a really well-organized way, and it's really hard not to just kind of have it come out in the jumbled mess as it is in your mind, right? So taking that time to think before we totally share everything that we're thinking about is really hard.
It is hard. I have never mastered talking and thinking in the correct order perfectly well. So that would mean I should be thinking a little bit better before I spew what's in my brain out my mouth. That's like, I'm thinking back to my days in med school and psychiatry, like flight of ideas, you know, sometimes I get into that mode. There's other times where the interruption of the day drives me nuts, right? Mm-hmm. Sitting at your desk trying to get through your inbox, cannot even think a full sentence before somebody interrupts you in your thoughts, or somebody wants a piece of you, or your pager goes off. It drives me crazy. And then I start thinking, how am I going to get all this done? And then my self-talk starts, and I get into being my own worst critic.
Did you actually know there's a name for that negative self-talk and inner chatter?
And inner chatter? No, yeah. Remind me.
They call it monkey mind. And so basically that's that idea that our actually the way we're wired is not all in one linear perfect sentence. It's actually here, there, and everywhere, and we get distracted and we have thoughts that interfere. And so sometimes I feel like I'm the only person whose mind works that way, but I think it's a generally recognized thing that we all kind of struggle with it.
Okay, yeah, you are not the only person whose mind works that way. I am envisioning this very tiny little monkey rattling around in my brain. Maybe like even shaking those jingle bells in the moment, kind of wreaking havoc as I'm trying to get through my day. Like major distractions and staying focused, I think, is probably one of the biggest challenges I have, as all these little arrows of distraction and chaos are coming at me. And it's just overstimulating. It's overwhelming at sometimes to get through the day.
I totally agree. I think that was always a challenge for me to stay focused. And I could just see it get exponentially worse when I had children, because then it was not only thinking about them and did they get to school okay or daycare okay and all of those concerns, pumping in between, all those things that were coming up when I had kids, but also just wanting to get home in time to see them before they went to bed. So there was this new time incentive, time scarcity pressure that just made everything much worse for me. Made me tend to want to rush and get 3 things done at the same time.
That's hard. It's just hard.
Yep.
It's hard, and we have to do it, and we have to get through the day. It's reminding me of a little mindful practice I stumbled across recently. You know, some people hear the word resilience and they kind of balk at it because it's kind of like, well, you know, resilience is, you know, kind of hard to capture. Maybe it's mostly about meditation or, you know, doing yoga and that sort of thing. And it's so much deeper and vaster than that, as we've learned about in coaching, because it's really about filling your toolbox for how you're going to get through your day when all these challenges face you. And so these different practices work in different ways for different people. So there's no like one size fits all, but the technique I'm thinking about came up in a blog I was reading just recently.
Does this technique have a name?
It does. It comes from Dr. Heather Fork, who is a dermatologist turned coach. In fact, she's a master certified coach, brilliant gal. And she calls it the see one, hear one, feel one technique.
Well, I can tell she's a doctor because, of course, all of us who went to medical school recall see one, do one, teach one.
Right, totally. That's why she writes it this way, because it makes perfect sense to us, right? It totally fits. She took a technique that's kind of a lengthier technique and shrunk it down, not only to be a catchy phrase with appeal to clinicians, but also it is a technique that we can use in our busy clinician schedules. Want to try it?
Sure. You walk me through it, and then I'll try it on you.
Okay. Perf.
Wait a second. Perf?
Yeah, perf. That's my short boomer version for perfect. You know, I have these millennial kids at home, and first of all, I just want to clarify, I am not actually of the boomer generation. I'm close to it, but I am not actually a boomer, yet they use that as a term of endearment with me. And they shame me for shortening my words, but we kind of got into this minimalist decluttering movement kind of a few years ago. And as I decluttered my house and emptied out my storage room in the basement and we cleaned out our garage, I realized, why can't I shorten words? That'll save me time too.
There you go.
So perf.
I'll try it at home, but I got a 10 and 12-year-old, and I'll tell you what, they're brutal.
They're brutal. Okay, they are brutal. I agree.
You aren't supposed to use hashtags in your text, by the way.
Thank you very much. That's come up at my house. I am going to use hashtags in my texts, but yes, they shame me as a boomer, and I'm not a boomer for that.
Anyway, okay, so bring it on, this new mindful technique.
That was a big bunny trail. The new mindful technique by Dr. Heather Fork, entitled See One, Hear One, Feel One. Okay, so let's take a minute to breathe. Just kind of sit back in your chair, relax, and I'm going to ask you these questions, and you just share with me what comes to mind in the moment. Not deep thinking, just what floats by.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, you ready? Okay. In this moment, what is one thing you see?
Chairs. We're in the Overholt, and I see chairs everywhere.
Chairs everywhere. Excellent. Okay, next question. What is one thing you hear?
I hear the fan of the, whatever that is, some sort of air circulation device. And I'll just say as an aside, I often, when I'm quiet enough to hear that, it always soothes me when I'm in a room and I can hear that. It's always a night, because it's always just constantly there. So that's what I hear, is the air circulating.
Oh, that's great. Kind of like that quiet background white noise. Okay, third question. What is one thing you feel in this moment?
I am wearing kind of an itchy wool sweater, and so that is what I feel. And whenever you wear a wool sweater, you kind of regret it, and I am a little regretting it right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Excellent. No judgment here from me. Well, let's take a minute to reflect on how that felt. What did you observe? What did you hear? What did you feel? Pull that all together.
Well, so I'm noticing the empty chairs, which reminds me of how this room was meant to be full of people learning and listening, and I feel a little wistful and sad. The sound of the motor that's been running forever and will continue to run even when this room fills up again. And then this itchy sweater that is a little uncomfortable, but it is warm. So sometimes life's like that. But also just how, I'm pretty nervous right now. I've never recorded a podcast before.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of made me feel more relaxed. So I really appreciate this.
Ooh. So the technique, thoughts on it, if you had to kind of summarize, did it work? Was it a mindful moment? What do you think?
I think it did work. And also the big thing is it took practically no time to do, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. When I first read this, I tried it in my office on a day I had a medical student, and we just took this pause and we did it to each other. And it was just this powerful moment of connection. And she's like, wow, I'm gonna take that with me and do it more.
All right, so do you want to give it a try?
I will do that. All right.
All right, in this moment, what is one thing you see?
I see your lovely smile, which is power and encouragement to me in this moment. Thank you.
You got it anytime.
All right.
That's awfully nice. What is one thing you hear?
All right, my stomach is growling. It is lunchtime, you guys. It is totally lunchtime. So yes, my stomach is growling.
And one thing you feel?
Okay, I too am hot and sweaty, not because I have a wool sweater on. It's probably a hot flash.
Oh, shoot.
It is probably just hormonal, but I'm putting it out there.
All right. Well, you're always honest. And I'm blissfully ignorant about hot flashes for about 5 more years, but I'll have that to look forward to. But anyway, how do you feel?
It's fun. It's just a fun technique. To me, what came to mind is just, gosh, I get to pause in the moment and be creative. Like, what's in my surroundings? What's around me? And I don't know, how long do you think it took to do?
Less than a minute.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Exactly. I would just say, gosh, we walk around with these busy monkey minds, like you brought up, lots of clutter, maybe a lot of chaos in our environment. And this little see one, hear one, feel one technique, something to try, just something to have fun with.
Yeah, Yeah, it's just one thing, and if you don't like it, there's infinite more things that you could try in the moment. So yeah, it's great. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing
thanks,
it.
Erin. Thanks for walking on this new journey with me.
Yeah.
And we totally look forward to connecting with everyone again in the new year. Be well.